What's up, guys? Welcome back to the shop. Welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, we're going to continue our quest on Homer today. Let me spin you around and show you what I got on the agenda. All right, guys. Today's plans are to continue back on Homer. We're going to go ahead and get our copper brake lines, run up along the firewall, down here on the frame rails, and get them ready to connect into our brake lines. And then we still have this mess with this body bushing. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Sawzall, hack off the body mount right here where that bolt's broke, shove the mount and what little piece of bolt's left back up and let it fall back down in the frame rail. I know that's kind of a terrible idea for that, but at this point I don't care. I'm going to get a grade 5 bolt, 10 inches long, run it up through the new body mount, up through the top of the frame rail, create a plate here, and bolt everything down, connected it to the top of the frame rail rather than right here. Probably not the best way to do it or the proper way to do it, but it is what it is. That's what I'm gonna do. So we're gonna get going on that. And then we're gonna get this engine cleaned back up. You know, get rid of these old valve covers, wipe the engine back down, do a little touch-up paint if needed. Set it back down in the engine bay where it belongs. And then get to fooling with this a little bit. See if we can get everything ready for the wiring. Figure out where we're going to put everything. Then I've got to get this 727 transmission out. Look through it. See what the deal is with it. It should be fine. Get it all cleaned up, ready to put back in. I did get a new 727 torque converter and flex plate for that. So we're good to go there. So anyway, let's get back to work. Let's keep going. This is Buster Radio Garage. Alright guys, running my new copper brake lines. Now I'm just running them on the top of the frame rail here, tucking them in, up on the firewall, and back over to the other side, and back up this side of the frame rail over here to my brake line. Now these things here are handier in the shirt pocket when you are doing these brake lines. It's just a little plumber's tubing cutter, and they are handy for when you're in tight spots or, you know, not just wanting to wheel a big one around. So, I mean, these are like 10 bucks at your local hardware store. Just a little like tip of the day. These things are amazing. So let me get that cut right there. We'll run it up the frame rail. Using copper is super malleable, so we can bend it and move it around however we want. Obviously, I'll have to cut a T in here somewhere at some point, so I'm gonna leave a little extra room for that. So let me finish this up, and then we will get to tackling that body bolt. All right. Let's be ignorant and cut this bolt off and see what happens. Oh, good night. I'm an idiot. All right, guys, after 2 Sawzall blades to cut that gnarly thing out, she is out of here. So now I've got to, well, get this out of here, but I got to get this bolt shoved up. Probably gonna have to take a punch and get it shoved up and over to get it out of the way. So I'm gonna focus on that real quick. All right, I just took the old motivator over there and pried down on this and was able to get the rest of the bracket out of here. So now the issue is getting the nub and the lock out of the hole, essentially out of the way, so I can punch up into the frame, mark where my bolt's gonna come through. And then essentially what I'm gonna do is use the body bushing, a sleeve that will come up through the body bushing up to the bottom of the frame, and then take my 5/8 bolt up through the body bushing, the sleeve, through the frame, put a plate, a lock washer, and the nut, and then tighten everything down, and that should sandwich everything together here enough to where it should be fine. Essentially, it's the same thing here, except on this side, I'm just gonna come plumb through the top of the frame. So I'm gonna take a punch, see if I can punch this out, which I should be able to, and then we'll go from there. Just nowhere to get my hands in here. I may have to jack this car way up to be able to get a swing on it. All right, guys, I got that last body bushing replaced, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it took me about 5 hours. It was unreal. Let me show you. Oh, there's the dogs. There's Penny and Rosie both. All right, here is the little bolt keeper, and you can see this is just me hacking away and gnawing at it, trying to get it out. It was unbelievable, but it stopped right at the tip. This is where I cut it off on the, I guess it would have been the bottom side, and then here's the top side. But I end up having to cut the frame on the inside of the box, bend the bottom side of the frame down to get this out, and then bend it back up and re-weld it in place. It was unfreaking real. So I went ahead on with my plan like I said I was going to. So I just took a bolt, ran it all the way through, and re-bolted it right up here on top. Now I will trim that down so it doesn't look so gaudy, you know what I mean? But ultimately, it's holding the body bushing in place. I don't believe it's going to go anywhere, and it's going to be just fine. Never did get a chance to get to my engine today, so we're going to get that in the morning. I'll just carry this video on over for you. So I'm going to get that engine cleaned up, get it set back down in here, take off what we don't need on it, and starting putting some of this on, getting ready for electrical, figure out what holes we're going to use, you know, patch up what we're not, so on and so forth. So, all right, see y'all in the morning. All right, guys, it's the next morning, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get started on getting this engine put back in the engine bay. So it's still sitting here where, you know, I set it when I took it out of the car. Ultimately, what we're not going to need is the, you know, the intake, valve covers, you know, some of the other odds and ends. Like, we're not going to need this fuel pump. We're not going to need the accessory brackets, things like that. To be honest with you, I don't think I'm going to run an alternator at all. We're just going to run it off an excess battery and, you know, charge it as we need it. Power steering, I'm not sure if we're going to run yet either. So anyway, what I think I'm going to do is just lift it up, wipe it down a little bit, because we'll clean on it as we work on it. Take it back over here, set it back here in the cross member, and bolt it back down, and then we'll kind of go from there with it, because I've got all the room in the world to work on this thing. But I just want to mainly just get the tires put back on and get this brought back over and set it in the car, and then start taking off everything we don't need and go from there. So let's get this engine back in the car. All right, there it is, guys. So in the next episode, we're going to go ahead and start putting all the fun stuff on. A lot of this stuff we got sitting over here on the lift. You know, all of this jazz can start going on there, which is going to be a ball. I cannot wait. And then we'll figure out what we're going to use up here in the firewall. Whatever we don't need, we'll patch over, make some, you know, some panels for it to cover it up. Rivet those in. If we ever need them, we'll be able to drill those back out. But we got our vents put back on. I still had to put the windshield surround back on, which is sitting up here on top of the car, but I'm going to clean it up. A lot of the trim's going to come off when we paint the body anyway, so I'm really not too concerned with that right now. But this part turned out phenomenal. Can't wait to show you the new front wheels, but we'll do that last with the reveal once we paint the car. But yeah, it's turning out good. So make sure to check in next week, and we'll start making this thing look cool. All right, I appreciate you watching. We'll catch you next time. BRG out.